All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Nathan Smith, and I'm the digital literacy, the digital programming coordinator for the Central Arkansas Library System. Thank you so much for joining me today for part 3 of the WordPress class. Very excited to have you back for this last session of the course. If you, let's get the preliminary stuff out of the way, and then we will jump right in. So first of all, as always, if you are, I want to encourage you, check out the upcoming events at cals.org. Head to the top of the page there, move your mouse over events, click on search for an event, and that'll show you all the stuff upcoming that's there on the website. One thing I will mention is we have an author discussion with Kevin Brockmeyer, who's back from the. He was previously with us for the book festival back in October. He's going to come back to talk about his book, The Ghost Variations. That is going to happen on Thursday night, the 11th. So come on by for that. We also have some technology classes coming up. Word Part 1 and Word Part 2 are happening on Thursday the 4th, so this coming up Thursday and the next Thursday. And we've got a few other things as well. Rockstar Tech Tips I'm going to do, as well as we're going to talk about streaming with OBS Studio toward the end of the month. So make sure you check that stuff out. I'll be excited to have you, and hopefully you'll have a great time. There's tons of cool programming that's coming up, so I think you'll get a lot out of it, as always. Also, of course, I always like to encourage folks to ask questions during my classes. If you have any questions, please let me know. This is part 3, so we'll probably have a little bit of time at the end for more in-depth questions even. So, please ask the questions whenever they occur to you. It doesn't have to be at the end or anything like that. Just ask away, and we'll make sure that that those get addressed, because it's very important to me that your questions get answered so that you can use the stuff that you're learning during these classes. The other big thing to say is, if you want to ask questions, if you're in Zoom, head down to the bottom, click on the chat bubble down there at the bottom of your Zoom window and type it in. It'll probably show up as a little panel on the side there for you. If you're using the Zoom mobile app, tap in the middle of the screen, move up to the top where it says More, tap on that, and then make sure you should see chat as an option in that menu that pops up there. If you're joining me on YouTube or Facebook, then send me your questions in the live chat or the comments respectively. I'll be watching those as well. There might be a little bit of a delay, but no big deal. We'll make sure those get taken care of. And finally, if there are technical problems, let me know about that as well. If my screen share freezes up, if I'm talking about something that's not showing up on the screen, if my audio goes out or my video. This is a different setup from what I've normally used for these live virtual programs, so I'm extra wary of technical difficulties. So please let me know if those arise, and we'll make sure that they get taken care of as soon as we can. All right, that's all of the preamble. So let's dive into the class today. I'm going to go ahead and screen share. All right, excellent. Okay, cool. So first of all, I'll give you just a moment to go ahead and log back into your site, just in case you got logged out. or you're using a different device this time. So again, as always with any WordPress website, you go to the address of the site. In this case, because I'm using the WordPress.com subdomain, mine is calsdigitalliteracy2921.wordpress.com. Whatever the address is of yours, you want to type that in, add a slash, and put WP-admin. That will get you into the back end to the dashboard of your site. All right. All right, cool. We'll give it maybe 30 more seconds, and then everybody should be signed in, or should be on the way to being signed in at that point. All right, great. Okay, so now that we're in the dashboard, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a few different things. One of those is a big one, though. I want to make sure that you become familiar today with what's called the customizer. This is a really useful tool that WordPress has built in these days that you'll certainly want to know about and play around with as you're getting your site up and running, and if you need to make specific types of changes to the site. And yeah, like I said, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some other odds and ends, and then we'll leave a little bit of time at the end probably for Q&A. So let's go. To get to the customizer, there are honestly a bunch of different ways to do it. From here in the dashboard, what you'll want to do is head down here to and move your mouse over Appearance. When I do that, you've got themes. So we talked about themes. We selected one when we were creating our site. Actually, let's take a stop and talk about those for just a minute. I'm going to click on this themes option here, and let's scroll down a little bit and take a look at this. So there are a bunch of different themes that are on offer here when you click on that selection. You'll notice at the top there are filters. There's all free and premium. Some of the themes that WordPress.com offers are paid themes. You'll essentially pay a one-time charge to use those on your site. Others are free, of course. Well, and you can see it right here. This one here is a free theme called Varia. These, as I scroll down here, the first three on this row are $69 each, $79, $39, and so on and so forth. So, so some of them are paid, some of them are free, and you could filter them out up there at the top if you want to. If I'm interested in a particular theme, I can move over this and click Theme Details. There's also an Activate button and a Preview button here. I'm going to click on Theme Details first because I can get to the other two from there. When I do, it pops up. It gives me a little, just a basic little preview here, and a little description over on the side. Let's see. There should be some with some more details than that. No? Okay. All right. So you can see a description. You can see little tags down here that say what types of features this theme includes. So down at the bottom here, I've got Activate, Preview, and Demo. I'm going to click on Demo first, and I'll be able to see a little more thoroughly what's going on here. This is going to basically give me an example site that that allows me to see what a website looks like when it has this theme set up and activated there. So I've got this big old header image at the top, kind of a cover, probably a cover block here with, oh, it says it, with some other stuff. I've got a few little columns here. I can kind of see like what fonts the theme uses and that sort of thing, how the links will appear. I can see an example about page. We've got these little quotes and so forth. News, so that's going to show me how the blog will look with this theme. And then I can see an example contact page here as well. So if I'm interested in that, I can come up here and click use this theme, or if I'm not, I can click back here, go back a few steps. Oh wait, oh, it just opened a new tab for me. Okay, cool. So I'll close that tab. If I click, so that was the demo. If I click preview, what it's going to do is take the content that's associated with my site, and it's actually going to show me what it would look like with this theme activated. So, so I can kind of, I can get a better idea of what my site would actually look like. And this actually takes us into the customizer over here on the left. Let's not quite go there yet. I'm going to click this X over here on the left, top left, to get out of it for the moment, but we will come right back to that. So you can browse through these themes that are available. If you have a site that's hosted somewhere else other than WordPress.com, or if you pay for one of the more expensive paid plans on WordPress.com, you'll have actually some of the more expensive paid plans come with access to some of these premium themes that have a charge associated with them, like this one here. And some of them allow you to install your own themes. So you can either, if you get good at using some of the, at writing the types of code that that run WordPress, particularly PHP and CSS, then you can make your own theme, or you can even hire people who will build a custom theme for you, and use that on your site. So just know that that's an option, and if you have a theme, if you find a theme here on WordPress.com that you like, if you install the Jetpack plugin on a site outside of WordPress.com, you can also get the WordPress.com themes installed there. Okay, so that's themes. I mean, I guess the number one thing I want to emphasize about this, if I go in here and I preview it, it will rearrange my the look of my site pretty significantly. So I've got this big old image thing up here that obviously I would swap out. This image looks basically the same, but I've got these columns here. I've got all of this stuff. Basically, I have a brand new look for my site, and I didn't really have to do much of anything in order to make it happen. Well, it hasn't happened yet, but this is giving me a preview of what it would look like. So I could apply, a definite sort of new coat of paint to my site with just a couple clicks, and that's really cool. So look around, find themes that you think are going to work well for you, and try them out and see what happens. Particularly when you're, particularly when you're just previewing things, like it's not going to really affect anything even after your site launches, as long as until you actually activate it, it won't affect any of your visitors, and you won't really, so it's really easy to try different themes and just see what's going to really work for you. Okay, so we've talked about that. Let's go ahead and click where it says customize over here on the left. When I do that, it is going to take me into the customizer that I mentioned before. And the customizer does a number of different things. Now, when you set up your site, if you chose a different theme than the one I chose, then you'll probably have different options over here on the left-hand side in the customizer. If so, that's okay. Don't worry about it. We're going to talk about the major ones, but depending on what theme you chose, your theme may have additional it may have additional functionality. It may have some cool extra stuff that you can do with it. So definitely whenever you're thinking about activating a theme, when you click on that preview, it's going to take you here to the customizer, and you should be able to kind of look around and see what the special features of the theme are, and get a feel for what you can do with it. There are a lot of powerful extras that a theme can do. At the bottom, though, just to make sure that this is very clear, at the bottom, though, whatever theme you choose, your content is going to stay the same. Your images are going to stay the same. All your pages and posts are going to be there. They may be placed differently. Some of the colors may be different. The fonts will certainly be different, and so on and so forth. But the essential content, the stuff that really matters on your site, the things that make it your site and not just a random person who happens to have the same theme as you on their WordPress site, those things don't change when you switch from theme to theme, and that makes it really easy to make your site look and feel the way you want it to. Okay, so here's what the customizer does. When you click customize, or if you're browsing around your site and you see like these little pencils or a little button down at the bottom here that says customize, that's all going to take you to the customizer. And what this does is it gives you a way to play around with the look of your site and certain other things that we'll talk about shortly, without making those changes live. And that allows you to, try several different things, maybe several different things in tandem with each other that kind of work together, before you launch that. And that way you can really perfect it before you have, before your visitors experience it. And that's obviously pretty important. So, in the customizer, you'll have this left sidebar here. The sidebar has a bunch of menu options that we're going to talk about. Down here at the bottom, you can sort of, you can either temporarily hide the sidebar. You can, you can use, for some pages, probably just your blog posts, you can use what's called Google AMP, which basically allows pages to load a little bit faster on a mobile device. And you can kind of see the AMP version of that. And then down here, you can choose which type of device you want to preview your site for. So, so desktop is the default, since I am accessing this on my computer. But you can also see the tablet version of your site and the smartphone version of your site, and and get a good idea of exactly what everything's going to look like. And that makes a big difference. Okay, up here at the top, let's choose this the first option I have, at least, which is site identity, and we'll talk about this. So on our site identity page, we have a bunch of things going on. Some of it we've already dealt with. So we have the site title here. We dealt with that back in week 1 when we were playing with the kind of basic settings for our site. If you've decided you need to change that site title, and of course it shows up here as well. If you've decided you need to change that, you can change it here. So just type in the new thing. And once you've confirmed the changes that you've made in the customizer, we'll get to that in a sec, you can then that change will take effect. So if I just wanted to say, take that off and just call it Cal's Digital Literacy, there we go. Now I can see a preview right away of what I've done. So the title of the site shows up here, and I could see it. But if my site were live and somebody else visited, they would not see this change yet. They would still see the date, in February, whatever it was that when we did part 1. They would still see that rather than this shortened version of it, because my changes have not gone live yet. This is a preview for only me. The tagline down here, again, I could change that if I wanted to. And in this particular theme, it shows up down here. In some other themes, obviously it'll show up in a different place or perhaps not at all. So just depends on your theme. If you don't want those to show up, if you just want to have like a logo by itself instead, you uncheck the box and then that disappears. But obviously we don't have a logo up there either. So we need something there. Let's go ahead and actually do the logo thing. So if you did the quote unquote homework from way back in week 1, you might already have a logo. If not, if you downloaded the example files, you can use those. There's a logo and an icon, which we're about to talk about in those example files. So again, let me double check and make sure. But yeah, okay. So the address, in case you need that, I'll go ahead and send out. So it's cals.click/WP examples. And let me go ahead and throw that into the live stream as well. There we go, cool. So if you want those example files, that's where you can find those. Let's see, so what I'm gonna do, so there are a couple of options that it gives us as far as the logo goes. Says no logo, buy a pro one from Fiverr, click create logo to start. So if you do that, if you click that create logo, I'm not gonna do it, but if you do, it's going to take you to this website called Fiverr, which is designed to basically allow you to commission different types of work, including art. And you could hire someone to create a logo for you for, not for a marginal cost, not something super expensive. If I come up to, but I'm going to click on select logo right here. That's going to take me to the media library, which we talked about last week. Of course, our files that we uploaded and the one image that was already a part of my site when it was first created. I'm going to click on upload files though instead. Click select files in the middle. Excuse me. And then here I am back in my example site assets folder. And I'll choose souplogo.png. And there we have it. So it's got a little check mark next to it. That means it's selected. Of course, you can only have one logo at a time, obviously. And then alt text. So again, if the image is purely decorative, then you want to leave that alt text blank. Otherwise, you do want to fill it in with something descriptive for folks who can't see the image, or for those poor, lonely, search engine bots crawling the web. So I'll just put cream soup here because that's literally what it says right there. And I could change the title if I want to, or I can leave it. Generally, I ignore the caption and description here, but if you're creating a gallery of images that need a lot of context and you want to add a caption, that can be a good idea. Just depends on what you're using it for. I'll click select, and now it's going to prompt me to crop the logo, which is good because I do need to do that. I want to go ahead and bring this in so that all of this extra space on the outside is cut off, so I don't have to worry about that. The file that I selected is a PNG file. In case you're curious, PNG stands for portable network graphics, but literally no one will ever say that phrase to you again your whole life. So don't worry about it. No one's going to refer to it as that to you, and you don't have to remember it. The PNG files, one of the nice things about them, they're a little bit larger than the standard JPEG or JPG files that you find on the internet most of the time. But they compensate for that by being higher quality and also by supporting what's called transparency, which is exactly what it sounds like. If you look at this logo, this area here, this area here, this area inside of these handles, the middle of the O and the P and the A right here, all of those, if you put them in a standard JPEG file online, what you would find would be, and then you try to use them for a logo like this, what would happen is you would get, well, an unsightly box, either white or black, around your image, like this, like I've cropped it right now. But because this is a PNG file with a transparent background, what happens is you'll actually be able to see the rest of my website, anything that's below this logo, through the handles of the mug or the bowl and all of that stuff. So, so that makes it look a lot nicer, cleaner, more professional. Just the fact that it is a PNG image does not mean that it has a transparent background. It actually has to be a PNG image with a transparent background. If you have an image and you want transparent, I would recommend, it takes a little bit of practice or maybe watching a couple tutorials on YouTube or something, but there's a nice free program that you can use to do that. It's called GIMP, and it's basically it's a free open source image editing program, and that can create a PNG file with a transparent background like this. Or you can find one if you, just depending on what you want to do. But make sure it's something that you have the rights to if you're going to use it on your for real website. I'm going to click crop image down here. And now I have my logo there. Okay, that's way too big. So I'm going to just remove this. Otherwise, this is all we'll see. But what I would probably do at this point, if I really wanted to use this on my site, would be to create a smaller version of it, to just shrink it down a little bit and then upload the shrunk version. I'll click remove. We'll just leave our title and tagline down there as they are up there as they are. And then down here, there's the site icon. So it says site icons are what you see in browser tabs, bookmark bars, and within the WordPress mobile apps. Upload one here. Site icon should be square and at least 512 by 512 pixels. So just for those keeping score at home, pixels are the little dots that make up any image that you see on a screen. So if you take a magnifying glass or you zoom in far enough, any image that you see on a screen is going to be made up of these little squares of color called pixels. And so it should be, and so whichever image you upload as your site icon should be at least 512 by 512 square pixels of color, so that it looks reasonably detailed when you when people are looking at it. I'm going to click select site icon, upload files again, select files, and again I'm back here in my example assets. I'm going to click on this one called favicon.png. Favicon is just a portmanteau of favorite and icon. So when you most web browsers call them bookmarks these days, but back in the days of Internet Explorer and so forth, websites that you saved so you could get back to them later were known as your favorites. And so this is called a favicon because when you add it to your favorites, you would see this little icon next to next to the name of the page that you had bookmarked. And so that's favicon. So I'll click on that. I can see a little preview of it here. I'll click open. It uploads for me. And I can see that it's square, 1280 by 1280 pixels. And I can fill in some alt text if I want, but I'm just gonna click select. We'll move on. Okay, it's asking me to crop the image, but since it's exactly square, I don't have to worry about that. I'm not gonna do anything with it. I'm just gonna click crop image right there. And now that it's done, I get a little preview down here and I can see it here. And I can actually also see it up here in my real, in my real browser tab. Anywhere I go on the site now, once I save these changes, I'm going to see this as my new icon. If I added it to the home screen on my phone, it would look something like this, though hopefully instead of black, this would be transparent, and so on and so forth. So, so this is, so that's the icon or favicon. Down here at the bottom where it says footer credit, this is something that's, well, I guess it's not entirely specific to WordPress.com, but you'll notice at the bottom of my page here, excuse me, says Cal Digital Literacy, create a free website or blog at WordPress.com. That's because, of course, I'm using the free version of WordPress.com. If I were doing the paid version, I wouldn't have to have this down here at all, but I do have to have something there, even if it's not this exactly. The one I like, because it's the least obtrusive, is this one, the WordPress.com logo. So you'll see now it still says the name of my site, but it has just a logo next to it instead of that whole create a free website or blog, blah, 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 blah. So much cleaner looking. So you can change that. And of course, if you have a business plan or higher, you can remove that. Or if you make your website somewhere other than WordPress.com. Okay, so I'm going to click the left arrow up here next to where it says site identity, and that is going to take me back to the list of menu options here. Now I'm going to click on colors and backgrounds. All right, so I have a bunch of stuff going on here. I've got my, I have these different colors that essentially serve different functions in my site. So white, I guess, is primarily the background color right now. So if I click on that, I could pick something else down here as the background color, or I could click pick your own color, and I can mix it down here so that I get the color that I really want. I've got my text color. So right now it's this dark, very dark blue. I've got the link color. So this is going to be the color that any of these links are, anywhere it's clickable like that. And then the secondary color. So the secondary color is going to be essentially an accent color around my site. I actually don't see any instance of this so far, but I don't know. That's interesting. So maybe for links that you've already followed. Oh, by the way, don't use the back button when you're working in the customizer, because it can throw things off. Yeah, so maybe links that have been followed or things like that. So you can change your colors, any of those colors to suit what you want. Excuse me, goodness. This X right here, that's just in place of, for some themes, you'll have a 5th color that you can customize. In this theme, we don't. We just have the 4. All right. And then you can also choose from one of these pre-designed color palettes if you don't want to try and pick your own colors everywhere. And if you change it, like so, You can always click default up here to go back to the colors that came with your theme. Cool. So let's talk about up here now really quick before we move further into the customizer. Up here at the top, I have a button that says Save Changes, and next to that, I have a little gear icon. If I click on that gear icon, it's going to slide out an additional sidebar temporarily. It says Action, Publish, Save Draft, or Schedule. So I can use the little, I can switch options here to move between Publish, Save Draft, and Schedule. If I choose Save Draft, what's going to happen is it's just going to save the changes that I've made so far so that I don't lose them if I accidentally exit my web browser or, excuse me. Oh my goodness, y'all. Getting sleepy for some reason. If my web browser crashes or if my computer decides to restart and update itself or something like that, I don't want to lose my work. So I could change this to Save Draft, and I could click that in order to save the changes that I've made so far. I also have the ability to schedule changes. So once I make some changes over here in the customizer, if I'm like, okay, I want these changes to happen, but I don't want them to go in effect until, say, midnight Wednesday or something like that. If that's the case, I can come down here, select midnight at Wednesday, and then at that point, the changes that I made will go live, and any visitors from there on out will see the new version of my site, essentially. Of course, the other option up here is publish. If I select that and I click Save Changes, then any changes that I've made here in the customizer since I started will go live on my site and be permanent. I mean, you can change them back, but they will be the new version of the site. I also have discard changes. So if I'm like, I don't want to do anything after all, I can discard changes and start over from where I was. And at the bottom under any of these, we have this share preview link. So if I copy this link, what's going to happen is I can send the link to someone else. If I am working with working with a collaborator, another editor, I'm doing this for a boss and they want to preview the changes before they go live or whatever, then I can send them that link and they'll be able to see the new version of the site before I actually put it into effect. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Publish and click Save Changes here at the top. So now the changes that I made so far are permanent on my site. Great. Let's keep rolling on this. So again, if you're still in the colors and backgrounds, click the arrow to go back to the left. And let's look at the menus. So there's an analogy I like to use when we're talking about menus here. And that analogy is thinking about a restaurant. So if you think about a restaurant, let's say you have a table that's designed to seat 4 people, right? So you come into the restaurant and the person says, oh, you've got a party of 3. Okay, great. So they take you to this table. It's designed to seat 4 people, but there's only 3 of you. And so they set 3 menus down, one on each of 3 sides of the table, and they leave the fourth side empty because nobody's sitting there. So menus in WordPress are kind of like the menus in this analogy. There are menus, which are in computer world, we just say a menu when we mean a list of options. So it could be a number of different things, but at the end of the day, a menu in any sort of software scenario is a list of options of usually actions that you can take or things you can visit, stuff like that. And in WordPress too, a menu is a list of options, but each theme in WordPress has one or more menu locations. So this is like the table. If you think about the table, if somebody had 6 menus and they wanted to set them down so that, so that people could get to them, if they're trying to set that on the 4-person table, there's not really enough room. There are only 4 menu locations on that table because there's only room for 4 people to sit there. And so WordPress themes work the same way. Each theme has a number of menu locations, and any menu, any list of options that you can create can go in any of those menu locations, though they're kind of, the menu locations are usually sort of designed for one type of menu or another. So let's look at that. Up here at the top, our site has 3 menus: primary menu, oddly enough, and then social menu. Down here, and so we can create as many menus as we want, as many different lists of options as our little heart desires. However, we can only accommodate 3 menus on our actual site. Your theme can display menus in 3 locations. So if we come up with more sets of options than that, then either we need to change themes or we need to think about how to pare that down and pick 3 options or 3 sets of options that we'll actually use on our site. If I click View All Locations, then I can see what each of those menu locations is. So primary, that one's probably going to be up here at the top. Then footer menu, that one's down here. And then social links menu, and the menu, so that in that menu location, you have the social menu right here. So if I want to change any of these menus, I can click Edit Menu here, or I can go back over here and I can edit the menus directly from this spot. So this one says primary, and then there's oddly primary menu as well, which seem to be the same thing. So I don't know why there are 2. It seems like a weird glitch. And then there's the social menu, which is set to the social links menu location here. So I'm going to click on the primary menu and let's add an option to it. Because last week we made an about page, right? And so I want to add that to this menu. Currently I've got the home and the blog, but I'm going to click add items. And it gives me yet another little sidebar here on the left. I have a list of, and I have several different types of things that I can add to my menu. I can add as many as I want to, but I don't want to do that, to be honest, because I don't want to add a lot of extra clutter for my visitors to wade through. So the first option up here is actually collapsed. I can go ahead and expand it by hitting this arrow, and that's custom links. Custom links, I can put in the URL, the actual web address of any web page on the entire internet, and then I can add some link text. So if I wanted to, say, add the library's website, type that in, and there we go, link text, Cal's site. If I click add to menu, now it's part of my menu, and it'll tell you the type of link that we have here, in this case, custom link. If I expand the pages option, we have the 3 existing pages: home, blog. So home, of course, the home page that I'm looking at over here. Blog, the page that lists the blog posts. That's why it's called posts page over here on the right. And then about us, that's the page that we made last week. I'm going to hit plus and add that to the menu as well. And you'll notice as I'm doing this, down here at the bottom in the footer menu location, you'll see those options being added down here. That hasn't happened for my visitors yet. If anybody was visiting my site, they wouldn't see the menu change. But eventually, if I click Save Changes, they will. Right now, though, I'm just making changes and previewing them to see how they're going to work for me, or if they are going to work for me. I can even create a new page from here, although that's not the optimal way to do it, in my opinion, and then just go in later and edit it. It'll basically just be a blank page until I actually change it. But you could do that if you wanted to. Down here under posts, so these are the blog posts, the 3 blog posts that are currently live on my site. I can, of course, also add a new post if I want to, but I'm not going to do that either. I'm going to go ahead and click, I'll add this winter menu blog post and into the menu as well. So now we have 5 options. You can also do a section for categories. So if you recall, last week we created the fiction category and the sci-fi category for that War of the Worlds blog post that we created. So I could add those. So basically you can click that option in the menu and see all of the posts that are in that category in the list. It'll do a search for them. And same thing with tags. So we created a few tags: aliens, Victorian, and H.G. Wells, and I could add those. I could add those to the menu as well, so it would search for all of the posts that have one of those tags associated with it. So you can do a lot of different things. You can send people, you can take people to a lot of different types of information on your site from there. And of course, you can search up here at the top. So if you don't see in the list what you need, search for it up here. Okay, so that's adding items. I'm going to click this Add Items button again to collapse that sidebar on down. I'm actually going to scroll up here on the side. And let's talk about arranging this a little bit. So let's say that I want to put the About Us as the next option after Home. So Home, About Us, Blog, the Cal site, and Winter menu. Let's say I also want to make this Winter menu option here. Let's say I want that to be available, but maybe I don't want that to be what we call a top level or parent option up here in my menu. So if so, I can bring it up here. I'm going to bring it up and drop it under About Us. And then, or I could do this all in one go. What I'm going to do is drag it over to the right a little bit so that it's slightly indented. And you'll notice the little dotted line that I get here before I drop it is indented. When I let go, About Us is indented under Winter menu. And if I go up here, you'll see About Us has a little arrow next to it. When I move my mouse over that, Winter menu is a sub item underneath About Us now. So that allows me to fit more items into my menu structure, but organize it a little bit better and make it so that it's not an overwhelming number of options to my visitors. Okay, so that's how you arrange that. There are a few other things to point out here. From this screen, I can also change which locations this menu shows up in. So it does show up in 2 locations already: the primary menu location the primary location and the footer menu location. I could put it in the social links menu location as well, which actually I guess is here, not down there. But that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. I'm not going to do that. You also have the option automatically add new top level pages to this menu. So what that means, if you recall last week when we were creating our page, we had the option to assign the page to a parent page. In other words, if I had About Us and I wanted to create like Our Staff page, I can make About the parent page so that the address for that would be, caldigitaliteracy29221.wordpress.com/about/our-staff or whatever. And so if I created the Our Staff page in that way, then this wouldn't apply. But if I created a new page like, let's say, you know, our services or whatever, then, and I didn't assign it a parent, then when I published it, if I have this box checked, it would automatically show up here in this menu and down in the footer, because those are the two locations where this particular menu is assigned. So basically, if you leave this checked, any page that you don't assign to a parent will show up in this menu automatically, and that could be pretty useful. You know, hopefully you won't create tons and tons and tons of static pages in general. Most stuff that you put on your website can probably be a blog post, but if you find yourself creating those pages from time to time, this could save you some effort. There's also the option to delete the menu. Now, deleting the menu doesn't delete the menu location from your site's theme. It just deletes that set of options, essentially. And you have to, well, you don't have to. You will probably want to create or assign another menu in those locations instead. Cool. All right, so I'll hit the left arrow again to get back. Now I'm in the I'm at the top level of the menus. When I go down here to mobile settings, there's only one option here: display mobile menu on the side. Let's actually see what that does. Okay, cool. So when that's on, if I click menu here, it'll give me the menu options. Otherwise, if I uncheck this, then it's going to show it down here below. So this option seems to make more sense to me. And you might have different settings depending on what your theme is. So just bear that in mind. Okay, I've gone back. I had to click the arrow a couple of times. And now I'm going to click on content options here. Now this one may or may not show on your theme. It probably will, but it may or may not show in your theme depending, and certainly the options that are in here will change depending on what your theme is. In this case, the only option that I have here is show the featured image on pages. So this is unchecked right now. So if I go to my, let's go to my about page. Okay, so right now I have, let's switch to like tablet view. Yeah, so right now I have this this cover block that we talked about last week, where I selected the image and it gives you a little color overlay and then you can put text on top of it. I've got this cover block right here. If I check the box for show the featured image on pages, it's actually going to give me two instances of the windmills. One here at the top, because that's the featured image, and one down here that's the cover image, or the cover, the image, that same image inside of the cover block, I should say. If I didn't have a cover block and this were checked, then I could put the featured image here instead, and that'll just show up at the top of every page, and I cannot bother with a cover block, just depending on how I want things to look. So you can choose, for this theme at least, you can choose whether or not the featured image is going to show at the top. Again, though, always set a featured image because on social media, the feature image is going to be the one that people will see before they click through to your content. Okay, I'll click the left arrow up here. Okay, let's talk about widgets. Widgets are pretty interesting. I'm going to switch back to desktop view for this. Widgets are pretty interesting. They're little pieces of reusable content that you can place around your site in various ways. So looks like, at least on this page, we have 3 different spots for widgets, all of which are at the bottom in the footer area. So footer, footer 2, and footer 3. If I come down here, you'll notice there's nothing really here. But if I click on footer, yeah, see there's nothing there. I'll click add a widget. And now you can see what kinds of content might constitute a widget, because there are a bunch of different options of types of widgets that you could add. Let's see, let's hit some notable ones. Audio, so you can display an audio player if if you're a musician or if you have a podcast, things like that. A calendar, so you can display a little calendar that'll show when your most recent posts were posted, and folks can click on a day to kind of see what posts went up on that day. The category cloud. There's a category cloud, and there's also a tag cloud down here. Excuse me. And basically that's, well, that gives you something like this. More like this. And basically what it'll do is for whatever categories or tags you use for your posts, the more you use your, the more often you use a category or tag, the more often it will, or the larger that category or tag will be in the category cloud or tag cloud, respectively. So this kind of gives people an idea of, for one, it gives people a way to easily get through to the types of content that you're posting most often. It gives them the ability to quickly find subject matter or a post format that's interesting to them and jump right to it. Basically, when you click on one of these words, it will do a search for that. For if this were a tag cloud, it would do a search for all the posts with that tag. So it's a really useful way to both give people an idea of what your website is about and what it's like, and also give them easy access to a bunch of your different sort of genres of post, essentially. Okay, let's see. You've got contact info and map. So you could have a little map with your location, your hours, and your contact information. Let's see. An image gallery, you could do Google Translate so that folks who don't speak your site's language natively can translate it pretty easily. Of course, Google Translate is not as good as a translator that's fluent in the language in question, but in a pinch, it will do. You could display your latest Instagram photos. You could display just an image. You could put a set of links to other sites that you want people to know about. A list of your site's pages, posts that you like. This is posts that you've liked around WordPress.com. Let's see, an RSS feed if people want to subscribe using a feed reader. Your Twitter timeline, or an embedded video. Let's go ahead and see how that works. I'm going to click on the video. And what I've got here, I've got the title. And I'll click on add video. So what it's going to do is it's going to give me it's giving me this upload option here, but really I don't have this option because what's going to happen is, because I'm using the free version of WordPress.com, it won't let me do it because you're restricted. You can't upload videos using the free version. You have to have a certain level of paid plan in order to use the in order to upload videos directly into your site's storage. But you can still embed a video. So let me show you how that works. All right. Going to grab, so this is a good time if you, again, if you did the quote unquote homework from last week, I had mentioned finding a YouTube video that you wanted to use for an example. It is now the time for that. So go ahead and grab the address of the watch page for your YouTube video. Now, just to be clear, it's very important that it's the watch page. You can't just look for it in the search results on YouTube and be able to paste that address. You have to actually paste the address of the page that you would go to watch the video. So in this case, for me, I'm going to use this one, the Undertale 5th Anniversary Concert. And I have it saved in my actual favorites on my browser. So I'm going to get rid of that part, but normally that won't be an issue for anyone else. I'll select this and I can right click and click copy, or I can select this and press Control C on my keyboard since I'm on a Windows computer. Or if you're on a Mac, you can press Command C, and that either one of those will copy, not just in your web browser, but in almost any program that's capable of copy and paste. Cool. So I've got my my YouTube link copied. Now I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to click on the left side here, insert from URL. When I click on that, select this, and I'll paste the address of the video right there, and you'll see it comes up with a little preview, and I'll click Add to Widget. When I scroll down now, I can see, oh, there it is. So now, now I've got that in the footer of this page. If I go back a little, well, this page and of other pages as well. If I go back a little, let me add another one too. So just because this is usually the way it works, I'm pretty sure that footer down here is just is essentially a column that's the left third of the bottom of my page in this footer area. Footer 2 is going to be the middle column, and footer 3 is going to be the right-hand column. I'm going to click on footer 3, add a widget, and this time I'll add, oh, I don't know, a tag cloud. There we go. And again, I can name it. So I called the other one video. This one says tags, but I could change it to something else like tag cloud, like so. There's a limit for the number of tags that'll be displayed. So past 75, once I have more than 75 tags associated with posts on my site, it's going to use the 75 most frequent ones and leave out the rest. Excuse me. And then I can choose, specific tags to exclude. So if they're primarily just ones I use to help organize the site, or like featured, for example, or if they're ones that I use for, or if they're just topics that, that might not normally show up on the front page or whatever, it doesn't matter. I can put those tags in here and they'll be left out of the tag cloud. I can click done if it looks good to me. I can click delete if I don't want this widget at all. But I also have this visibility option. If I click on this, I can basically add a rule for when the widget shows up and when it doesn't. So for example, the rule right now is show if. I can also choose hide rather than show. So hide or show if, and then I can choose a thing. So let's say, let's choose taxonomy. Nope, that's not what I meant. Let's go category. Okay, show if category is all category pages. So The categories only apply to posts. So if I set this show if category is, already it's looking at categories and it's going, well, this is a static page, not a post. So it's not going to show up there. Show if category is fiction. So in this case, it won't show up here, but if I go to the H.G. Wells War of the Worlds post, it will show up. Or I could choose hide if, and that's going to make sure it does show up here. But if I go to my tag cloud, or if I go in my tag cloud to the to this post, well, to the category or to the tag and then to this post, you'll notice the video shows up, the tag cloud doesn't, because I've excluded it from posts that are in the fiction category, like this one is. And you can add multiple rules and either make it match any of the conditions or all of them, just depending on what you want to do. I'll hit done, and I'll go back to the About page here. Nice. So widgets can, depending on what theme you're using, they can be used in a variety of different contexts. So, so in this case, with this particular theme, widgets will only show up at the bottom. If I switch to tablet or smartphone view, the widgets will show up, will be stacked on top of each other rather than side by side like it is in desktop. But if I have, this theme will only show them at the bottom. Some themes will show them in a sidebar over on the right-hand side, or they could be placed any number of ways. I mean, they might be on the left side in some themes, but that's pretty unusual. So just depends on how your theme is set up, where widgets will go, or whether there are even widget locations built into the theme at all. Usually there's going to be at least one. You can install other plugins to get more types of widgets if you are using a plan or a hosting service that allow you to install plugins. Okay, so back here, let's look at the homepage settings. So this is kind of an important one, just depending on what type of site you want. So your homepage displays your latest posts or a static page. For folks who are using your site primarily as a blog, your latest posts is probably the best option here, because what that's going to do is when somebody visits your site, the first thing that they see is the latest thing that you've posted on your blog, and then they can scroll down to keep browsing through your blog's archives. On the other hand, a static page is good for, say, things like sites for a business or things like that, where you want visitors to basically see the same type of information whenever they visit your site. That is the default, at least the way that I set my site up. And I'm happy with that, so I'm going to leave it. But if you're primarily using your site as a blog, you might want to hit your latest posts as the option, so that way folks can get straight into reading your blog when they visit your site. And then you can change which of your static pages is considered to be the home page. In other words, which page has which page people land on if they just go to the main address of your site, or the root address of your site, as we say, and which page contains the blog posts. And you can also add new pages, new blank pages for those purposes. Hide the site header. If you check that box, then no, nothing happens on this one. Oh yeah, there we go. So I can get rid of the sort of like all of the extra stuff, the menu and all that at the top. Your theme, again, may or may not have this option. I can also choose to hide the footer menu, site footer menu and widgets on the home page, so I can get rid of those just on the home page and they'll show up everywhere else. And then hide homepage title, which is already checked. If I uncheck it, there's the homepage title, which is just home. So if I'm going to show that, I might need to change that to something a little more interesting. And then finally down here is additional CSS. That's a paid feature. Of course, you can use it on a WordPress site hosted somewhere other than WordPress.com. But what that is if you want to add some additional stylistic tweaks to your site, you can do that in this additional CSS area. And you know, you could change the colors of certain things, or you could make something a slightly different shape or position it differently, or gosh, a lot of different things you can do with CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, but again, no one will ever say that to you again, so don't worry about it. Okay, so I'm going to click Save Changes because I'm happy with what I've done with my site. And now it's saved, and all of the changes that I made here in the customizer have gone live. If I click the X up here at the top, then that will that'll take me back to wherever I was before I hit Customize. Now I'm going to go and browse my site a little bit. So I'm going to click on My Sites. And switch. And I'll go visit it. Oh, this is what it looks like. So one thing that I wanted to point out, actually, let's go ahead and visit the site proper. So I'll click that Visit Site button. So one thing I specifically wanted to point out about this, why is that not working? Do I have to launch it? How odd. Hey, there we go. Okay, now it's loading properly. Okay, so one thing I wanted to point out about this is a YouTube video, obviously. And when I embed it down here, well, let's talk about embedding in general. When we went into if I click edit down here at the bottom, it'll take me into the editor. You'll notice in the editor that we were working in last week, when I go to choose a new block, one of the categories of blocks that I can add here is embeds right here. And it has just a whole host of things that I could embed in my pages and posts here from a variety of different sources. Excuse me. But what all of these have in common, goodness gracious, so sorry y'all, is that they work in pretty much exactly the same way. What happens is there's content that is, I gotta get out of here. There's content that's stored on your site. Come on, go back. Yes, I'm sure I want to leave. So there's content that's stored on your site, like images and the text that you've written, all of your posts, and so on and so forth. But there's also content that's stored, but embedded content is content that actually lives somewhere else, but shows up on your website. So when I tell my web browser to load this particular page, what's actually happening is all of this stuff is coming from the WordPress.com servers. So, so we've got, so my text here, this image, this gallery of images, my little subheading, all of these things, all of that's coming from the WordPress.com servers. And most of it's stored in my website's like storage area. But down here, when we get to this video widget, WordPress says, and now there's a video embedded here, but it lives over on YouTube, so go get it. And so your web browser says, oh, okay, sure. And so it goes over to YouTube and says, hey, I heard you got this video that I need. And YouTube gives them, at first, just this little placeholder image. But when I click play, it actually starts the video, and I can watch it right here in the context of my web browser. I can even go full screen if I want to, and watch it that way. And so this is a really nice thing in a lot of situations, honestly. If you are sharing content from YouTube on your website or almost any type of video content, this is a pretty good way to go. Nice thing about YouTube is even if you're uploading your own videos, they store the videos for you. So you don't have to have, like 500 megabytes worth of available storage space in order to make that video available to other people. They will host it for you with the caveat that essentially people have to visit their site or at least connect to their site in order to watch it, and they can show ads and all that good stuff. But in the case of, so this will allow, so if you're sharing content like that, you can embed the content rather than posting it yourself, and that'll mean you don't have to use up a bunch of your storage space. You don't have to worry about whether the server can handle like people connecting to it and watching a bunch of videos. You don't have to worry about whether it's in the right file format for your website to play, and so on and so forth. So it cuts a lot of that work out. And you can share not just your content, but anybody else's content, almost anyway. If the fact that this video is appearing right here tells me that I'm actually allowed automatically I'm allowed to put this video on my page. There's no legal liability or anything like that with embedding this video here. The reason being, if they didn't want me to do that, the people who own this YouTube channel would have turned off the ability for someone like me to embed the video on my website, because that's an option. It's just a switch you flip in YouTube. So you don't have to do anything, you don't have to do anything fancy in order to say, don't embed my video. You just click a button and then it's done, and nobody can embed the video. So they've implicitly given me permission to put the video here, and I don't have to worry about all the sort of legalities of hosting somebody else's video or things like that. The problem, though, or where it can be a problem, is that you don't have complete control over the content. If it was my own video that I uploaded to my website, then I made the video and then I posted it on my website, and as long as I don't take it down from my website, it's going to be there, right? But but in this case, if somebody decides, well, I don't want that video to be on YouTube anymore, well, the person who owns it, whose channel it's on, if they decide, I don't want that video to be on YouTube anymore, they can take it down anytime they want. And then if somebody goes to my website and they're expecting to see that video there, they're going to be disappointed. Or if they make a change to the video that kind of, let's say I'm kind of breaking down, I've got a blog post and I'm breaking down different parts of this video, but they make a change that takes out some of the parts that I criticized and, adds in some new stuff, then suddenly my blog post is kind of obsolete because the version of the video that's embedded, even though it's embedded right there on the page, the version of the video that's there now doesn't match the version that I was commenting on in my blog post. So, and of course, YouTube could always take the video down. So even if it's your video and you don't have any intention of taking it down, YouTube might, if there's some sort of legal issue, or, if you delete your Google account or something, YouTube will also take, YouTube will take the video down. And then then you don't have it on your site anymore. So it's a double-edged sword, but honestly, most of the time, embedding the video is the right choice and hosting it is the wrong one, in my opinion. And you can do this with videos. You can do it with social media posts. You can do it with songs from Spotify or whatever. Embedding, a very good thing, but you do want to know how it works. So that way you can be prepared for how it might or might not work in different situations. One last thing I'll mention before we leave a little bit of, before we take a little bit of time for Q&A is, of course, once your site is all ready to go, make sure you get rid of any placeholder content that's still there, like the example stuff that came on your website when you first created it. Excuse me, you might want to delete some pages and add some more. You might want to write a blog post or two. But once your site's ready, make sure you either click this little launch site button up here or go up and click on my site and click on manage down here, go to settings, and then down here under launch site, click launch site and make sure that public is selected down here so that folks can actually find your website by searching for it or by typing in the address. All right, what questions do y'all have for me before we wrap it up? All right. Well, I don't see anything so far. If you have questions and haven't been able to quite get them typed out, or if you think of a question later on that you want addressed, please feel free to email me. The address to use is digital@cals.org, digital@cals.org. Thank y'all so much for joining me for parts 1 through 3 of Make Your Website with WordPress. I've enjoyed having you, and I hope that you got a lot out of this. And I hope you also have a fantastic rest of the day.